You get your car repossessed, and all of a sudden someone knocks on your door, and they hand you a piece of paper. And on that piece of paper, it says that you're being sued for the amount that is left over on that vehicle. What would you do? Do you even know what are your rights? Do you even know what your rights are if your vehicle has just gotten repossessed? Do you know what your rights are if your vehicle is repossessed and they're coming after you for the money? In this video, I'm going to talk about some solutions, and these are real life solutions. These are things that I've helped my clients with, either with doing the work for them or just consulting with them so they can maneuver their way through to a solution that they would be able to move forward in their lives. So we're going to start it off with this part here. So got to get back on my screens, and I want to let you know, let me tell you how motivated I was to make this video for you today. For this repossession video, because a lot of people have saw some of my past videos about Santander, American credit acceptance with the automobile repossession issues. Also, I think with Wells Fargo had an issue where they were actually repossessing vehicles when people had made their payments. But people will reach out and they'll say, hey, my car is either about to get repossessed or my car got repossessed and they're coming after me for the debt. And just to let you know how motivated I was for this video, I got up at 4:30 in the morning. Like I slept good last night, but I was just so motivated to make this video. I got just, when I woke up at 4:30, I just said, let me just get up and get into the office and get everything together, because I got a lot to say on this. This video will help you. This is real life stuff where I've either helped, we've done the work for our clients, or we've guided them through the process. So first, let's look at it here. You do have rights when it comes to your automobile and in the situation that you're in with your automobile. Now, but there is something that you need to determine to be able to see what path you're going to be able to move forward on. Because a lot of people, when I talk to them, I'm like, well, you're talking about all of the stuff that's going to happen in the future. What about right now? So what I want you to do right now, if you're in this situation or you know someone in this situation, maybe you could have them come over to this video, but just answer this question. Do you want to keep the vehicle or do you want to get rid of the vehicle? Because right there is going to let you know the consequences of what your actions are going to be. So if you're indecisive about what you want to do with the vehicle, then you really are going to be stuck. You're going to be paralyzed. Certain solutions are not going to work for you because you are indecisive about what you want to do with the vehicle. So let's talk about first. And this here, if you want to keep the vehicle or you don't want the car, I want you to keep this in mind. And I was on the phone with a young lady yesterday, and it wasn't even about a repossession. It was just about a debt. I want you to get this into your mind when you're dealing with banks, when you're dealing with credit card companies, when you're dealing with any company that you're in trouble with making the payments, where you've either fallen behind or you're just flat out there in the collection process, is that these companies do not believe a word that you're saying. And the reason why I say that is going to help you be able to move forward a lot easier, because see, we have a tendency to where when we say something to someone, we think that they should believe it, when you need to understand, when you say it to someone or I say it to someone, it's up to them to believe what you're saying. And when you're dealing with people that you owe money to, these companies, they do not believe anything that you're saying. You need to get that in your mind. I want to start drilling that into your mind now, because it's going to allow you to be able to move forward without the stress and the frustration, because you're on the phone telling someone your situation about what you're going through, the problems and all of that, and it just seems like they don't care. Reason why they don't care is because they don't believe you and they don't care. So let's Get rid of those thoughts and wasted energy on making people believe what you're going through. So keep in mind, now you tell them what you're going through, but don't get frustrated when they don't believe you. So keep in mind, they want the money. Whoever you're on the phone with, their job is to get the money. Anything that veers away from getting the money, they don't want to really deal with. They might hear you, but they don't believe you. So I want to get my pen here. So if you want to keep the vehicle, and we have this in mind, that they want the money and they don't believe a word that you're saying, all they're going to be doing is they're going to be focused on getting the money. That's going to be on either side. Even if you don't want the car, they're not going to believe you. And even if you want to keep the car, they're not going to believe you. They might be willing to work with you on certain things, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But if you don't want the car or you want to keep the car, they want their money. Like, get that into your mind. They want the money. They don't want excuses. Now, if you want to keep the car, one of the options that you can utilize, if you haven't done it yet, is you could get payment deferment so you can try to catch up on the payments. Payment deferments is where they're going to put the payments on the backside of your loan, but you got to keep in mind the interest will continue to accrue on the months that you don't pay. But that's just going to be the give and take that you have to accept. You know, they're going to do this for you. You're going to pay some interest on it, but you're not going to be in trouble with your car because it's going to be deferred payments. They're going to put those payments on the backside of your loan. Or if you don't want to keep the car, turn the car in. Just turn the car in. Don't make them go through hell. Clean it up. Whatever you got to do. Get your personal items out of it because you don't want to be out somewhere and they repossess the car and you're trying to get your personal item. Just be like, hey, come get it. That's why I said it's going to make your life a lot easier when you determine what you want to do. If you want to keep the car or you want to get rid of the car. So now, if your car gets repossessed, so let's talk about some of the things that your rights that you have if your car gets repossessed. So one of the things is you have a right to cure. A right to cure means that you can make up the payments and get your car back and you can start back, get yourself back in order. Now, let me tell you, there's only certain states that have the right to cure. And let me get you those states. We got, let's see, with those states, we got District of Columbia, Colorado, Iowa, Kansas, Maine, Massachusetts, Mississippi, Missouri, Nebraska, New Hampshire, South Carolina, West Virginia, and my state of Wisconsin. That means that if you are behind 3 payments, they repossess your car, you have a certain period of time to make up those payments and you'll get your car back. But something that I've noticed that the lenders are doing to, in a way, hedge themselves on you messing up again is that they're going to charge off the vehicle. So even if you make the payments, you make up those payments, you can look on your credit reports and it's going to state that your car loan is charged off. And you're like, well, how can it be charged off if I'm still paying the payments? They've changed the laws to be able to allow them to do that. And what they're doing is they're actually unsecuring the loan from the vehicle. I know that sounds crazy because you're like, well, I'm making the payments on the vehicle. How can they unsecure the loan from the vehicle? Let me tell you the reason why they do it. Because it makes it easier for them to hand that over to a debt collection company if they end up going and getting the vehicle. If they end up going to get the vehicle, the process is already in place. They have to charge off. They can start right with the collection process. And what they're hedging on is that, hey, you messed up before. It's more likely that you're going to mess up again. Not to say that you will. And if you end up paying it off, it'll just say that it was paid off. And it won't hurt you on your credit. But this is some of the stuff that they're doing. And this is a consequence of getting your car repossessed. And they take the car. So now, I put a note here that when I was doing my research, and I've talked about this in the past, is that in some states, even if you make up all the payments, they don't have to give you the car back. So imagine this, you get your car repossessed, you're behind on 3 payments, 4 payments, whatever it is, and you go and give them the money. And they could say, we're not giving you the car back. Thank you for the payments, but we're not giving you the car back. And they have that legal right to do that to you in some states. So you need to look up your state laws. It varies from state to state, and also the way that it is applied varies from state to state. And I'm going to get into that in a minute when I go into detail about how they can repossess your vehicle. We can see that rights are being stepped all over some of the times with the way that they do it. So with your vehicle, you have a right to have what they call a hostile no hostile means to repossess your vehicle. Now, we know that there's a lot of times people are arguing. We see videos on TikTok, YouTube, different places where they are like, damn near in fights. Cars are up on top of the tow truck, and they're getting in their car and trying to drive it off, like all that. That is not supposed to be able to happen, but we see that it happens. By law, if you just say, I don't want to give up the vehicle, that they're not allowed to give up the vehicle, that they can only take the vehicle in a non-hostile action where they're not trying to argue with you. But we all know that it is not that way in application. And what they lean on, what's in their back pocket, is that they know that they have a document that states that the bank asked them to get the vehicle repossessed. And if any official was to come there, like the police, that they would go off of that document with the bank, because when they look at who has the power, they're going to be like, the bank. The bank could call the chief of police and be like, hey, we had this court action, and we were not able to get our property because of what one of your officers did. This is the thought process that's going through their mind, even though they're not supposed to get involved with that. Just because they have a repossession order does not mean that they have an order for a cop to be there to be helping them to get the vehicle repossessed. And that goes into the next one here. I'm going to skip one. Cannot have the police with them unless they have a court order to have the police with them to do the repossession. Now, in certain circumstances, they could. In certain circumstances, they could. But they cannot just say, okay, now you don't want to give up the vehicle, so we're going to call the police to help give up the vehicle. They're not supposed to be able to do that, but we know that in application of it, that they do get away with doing it. We see it all the time. But they're not supposed to be able to get away with doing it. And some of the officers that do come to the scene, I've seen them where in some videos where they said, this is a civil action and we're not going to allow you to repossess the vehicle. If they had a court document saying that they could repossess the vehicle, not just a document from the bank saying that they want to repossess the vehicle. Has to be a court document, a court order to get the police involved in it. Next thing is that they can't break into your garage or fenced property to take the vehicle. Now, remember, if you're wanting to get rid of the vehicle, give it back to them, you can avoid all of this by just giving it to them. If you're trying to keep the vehicle and you're trying to buy more time, this is your options, but you got to make sure that you don't live in a state that says even if you make up those payments, you're not going to be able to keep the vehicle. Now, in those states, it does state that if you pay off the vehicle, maybe you get another loan or you just come up with the money and pay off the vehicle, you will get to keep the vehicle because you are on the title. So now, let's get into Steve's with the credit repair shop from experience of dealing with these types of issues. You're not going to hear this anywhere else. So wake up, wake up, wake up. You're not going to hear this anywhere else. All of that other stuff is stuff that's, you can get it in books. Attorneys have it. That's all the surface stuff. Let's talk about what's underwater. Talk about what's underwater, what you got to look for, what we tell people to look for, because these lenders, some of them, not all of them, can be slick as hell. Some of the car dealers can be slick as hell. You don't have to take my word for it. You can just look up the cases: Santander, Consumer Financial, class action lawsuit, American Credit Acceptance, class action lawsuit, credit acceptance, class action lawsuit, Wells Fargo, class action lawsuit, Capital One Auto, class action law. Look up all of them. Look up all of them and just see what types of things, what types of violations that they had, either from the way that they gave the loans or the way that the dealers manipulated things to be able to give those consumers those loans. And any type of loan that you were not supposed to get, that you didn't qualify for, is a predatory loan. And any loan that you had the credit to not have to get that type of loan is a predatory loan. So if you have good credit and they put you in a loan that is predatory, that's against the law. If you have bad credit and they put you in a loan that's predatory, that's against the law. And I'm going to explain to you exactly how those court cases stated it and what I tell people to look for. So the first thing you want to do, if you're in the situation, they got the car, all, everything is gone. It's gone. With this, you're heading to court. You either headed to a debt collector coming to you like this client, you're heading, debt collector coming with a court summons, or you're just, you're headed to court where they're going to send it in the mail or whatever way they're going to do it. Well, they got to serve it. They can't just send it in the mail. But you're going to get that letter demanding that you pay that money like this client got. So the first thing you need to do is you need to get your original contract. And I want you to check the credit insurance. Credit insurance could have been if you missed any payments, the payments could have been made. So think about it this way. Some of the times, especially on these predatory loans, they know, they have this algorithm where they say, okay, most of these loans are going to be 3 to 6 to 12 months. And then the person is going to start messing up. So they'll offer you this credit insurance. That's where, if you get sick or have some problems, you can make some payments. We've seen where these companies didn't even try to fulfill their credit insurance, or they did fulfill their credit insurance and payments were made. So that meant that if you missed like 3-4 payments and the credit insurance said that they're going to pay those payments, are you actually behind? Did they even have the legal means to be able to repossess the vehicle? Because you're not really behind. They got the payments. Well, what you're going to do, because you learned this from me, is you're going to make sure that if that credit insurance, you're going to make, this time you're going to look at it and say, I want my whole policy. I want to see what I paid for. Were payments made? Was anything paid on the vehicle? We have had people challenge this and found out that either payments were made or in a case at the vehicle, it was actually paid off because they didn't even owe that much more on the vehicle. It was paid off. And yes, until you make all of your payments, they had the right to come and repossess your vehicle. Not that all companies would, but they had a right to do that. Now, the next thing is truth in lending. Now, you need to look at those documents. Now, you can go and do your own research to see the problems that there's been with truth in lending. Why do they even have a truth in lending document? The reason why they have a truth in lending document is because they were lying to people about the lending. You wouldn't have to have a truth in lending document if everybody was telling the truth when they made lending. They have that document because they want to make sure that people know what their the principal amount, the interest that they're being charged, the principal balance, and the amount that they're going to be paying back when the whole thing is done. They want to know. They want you to know all those 4 boxes. You can look at that. We've had people that got those and it was false. We had people who got the contract, looked at the truth in lending that they had at home, and then they got and looked at the truth in lending on the document that was given to the lender. Totally different. Totally different. You might be saying, well, Steve, why would a car dealer in the finance department do something like that? I don't know, but it's been done before. I don't know. I don't get into wondering why they want to do that type of stuff. but they've done it. So you want to make sure the truth in lending, all of that stuff adds up. Hopefully you keep your documents. What me and my wife do is we keep our documents in a folder in a file cabinet at home. So if anything had ever happened, we weren't even thinking on this level of having a car repossessed, but we just had it just so we would always know, just in case some type of warranty issue or something. We wanted to make sure we had our original contract so we can know what we had bought at that time. So the next thing is what you want to do, number 2 here, is you want to check to see if there's any court class actions with the lending company that you're involved with. If there's any court actions with the dealer, any violations that they know. When on the Santander class action lawsuit, these are some of the things that they talked about. They talked about power booking. Power booking is where they say, okay, you got this car. And this actually just happened to one of my employees that works for me with another company, where she bought a Caravan, Dodge Caravan. The amount on it was $2,000. Ladies and gentlemen, when she walked out, I wish she would have had talked to me or my wife before she did it. But when she walked out, how much would you think that her whole loan was for? $10,000 on a $2,000 vehicle. She went back. We said, you got to go back and you got to talk to them. And if they won't do something about it, then we're going to get someone to help you with this. When she went back, they actually told the truth. They said that we could not make a $2,000 loan for you with the company that we do the loans through. I think it was with Credit Acceptance or American Credit Acceptance. They told her, like, they were straight up. So I guess that they're like, hey, we're not going to lie about this. We're going to just tell you. We could not make that loan because the company will not give. They will not give loans on vehicles that are $2,000. So we had to bump it up to $4,000. Check this out. She had half of the money down. So in her mind, even though I know what you're going to say, you sign the contract, look at all that. But I guess at some point she was like, what did I sign? You know how some of the time they could, be a little salesy on you, and she's a young 20-year-old, so she fell into it. We've all been there. But she had half of the money, so it was $2,000 on the sticker. When everything was said and done, because she had to finance it, it ended up being $10,000. That's called power booking. So what they do is when they do power booking, they'll be like, hey, you got new tires on there. So it's $2,000. We got new tires on there, and it wasn't even really new tires. I'm not saying in this case it was that, but I'm saying that this is what was wrote in the Santander class action lawsuit, which they have taken down because of people like me, because what I did is I went line by line, and I was like, hey, did your dealer do anything like this? So they wanted to get that off of there. They wanted to get that off the line, but I'm here to tell you what was on there. So power booking was on there. So you go, you get a car, they say it's got new tires, so they add on $500 or $1,000 more dollars. So now instead of let's just say $2,000, we got a $3,000 car. Then they say the seats and this has this certain stuff on there. These lenders don't come and check that. They add on another $500 or $1,000. So now we're at $3,500. And then they say that it has this protection stuff on the vehicle, on the paint job. On the Dodge Caravan, I'm just saying, and that added another $1,500. So it just keeps adding up, so they're able to do it. And then the other part, how they get to $10,000, is the interest rate that they charge, the finance charges, and the interest rates. That's what it would be with that payoff. And you know how they do it. They'll be like, well, what kind of payment can you afford? What the payment that you can afford could end up making that be from, instead of a few years to pay it off, to an extended amount of years to pay it off. And if you have an extended amount of years to pay off, that means you're paying more interest and a higher interest rate. Other things that was in the Santander Consumer Financial Class Action lawsuit was application manipulation. What is application manipulation? That means that they manipulate the application to be able to get it approved by the lender. They know what the lender is looking for. Have you ever walked into a car dealer and they were like, well, hey, you like the car? Okay, you want to test drive it? Okay, we can fit you in. We're going to fit you in. Here, they put that little square. Have you ever seen that, the little square, and they got a payment, $100, $200, $400, $500. Have you ever seen that? And it's like, you like, look at that sheet. And what they're trying to do is, number one, get you focused in on you leaving with this car. And then you pick one of the boxes, you be like, okay, I want the $200 box. And then they're like, okay, they look at your income, they look at all of the stuff that you have, stuff that you're paying on, because some of the lenders are like, hey, don't put people in the cars that they can't afford. So but the dealer wants to sell the car. And so they know the rules. And so what they start to do is they offer your payment, they start to manipulate your contract. Now, I'm not saying all of them are doing it. I don't want people knocking on my door about this stuff, but they start to manipulate that contract. It is done. You don't have to take my word on it. Just go look at the class action lawsuits if you can find them. If you can't find them online because they've taken the administration websites down, just seek out the actual lawsuit, and you got to do some reading, and you will see that I'm telling the truth on this. Next thing they'll do is they'll manipulate your income. He can't afford that, but he said he could afford $200. They're looking at it. They did all the manipulations on with your rent and all that. So maybe all of a sudden what they do is they lower your rent amount. They lower what you're paying on some of your other stuff that you're paying on. Stuff that really can't be seen on your credit reports. And then they manipulate that. And then all of a sudden, you're able to afford to get the car. As long as you got that down payment, you're going to be able to afford to get the car. Now, the next thing that they'll do, so your credit is messed up. This is that let me do you a favor type mentality from car dealers and car salesmen. So the next thing they're going to do is they're going to manipulate your credit score. So you're saying, Steve, how are they going to manipulate my credit score? How are they going to manipulate my credit score? The way that they manipulate your credit score, which is also in the Santander Consumer Financial Class Action Lawsuit, is an internal score. And I believe that all of them are using an internal score. And they have a right to use an internal score. But what they don't have a right to do is to not tell you that they're approving you based on an internal score. So what do I mean by an internal score? You go to the car dealer to get a loan, and you're thinking with your bad credit or your good credit that you're getting approved. Now, you'll know right off the bat if they're using your credit to get the loan or if they're guiding your credit to get an internal score loan. So let me give you an example. You go to get a car loan and all of a sudden you got an approval from one of the major banks like Chase, the big banks, not the banks known for subprime lending. I'm talking about the big banks. Interest rates low, they use your score. Even if it's mediocre and you get one from those, they use your score. Not to say that these companies won't have a subprime division, but they're going to rate your credit a lot different than what these other companies that specialize in subprime loans are going to do. So, but if you end up getting one from one of these subprime companies, and you got to do your research on them, but they're out there. The best way to do it, like the shortest way to understand or to know if it happened to you, is look at the interest rate that they charged you. And some of the companies, it was Santander, Wells Fargo, Credit Acceptance, American Credit Acceptance, Capital One, all of these. If you're dealing with, I can't even remember their name, but the one dealer that's out there that they have a lot of high mileage vehicles. It's just not coming to my mind right now. But they have a lot of dealerships, and they specialize in pointing people into that direction. Also with Chrysler. Chrysler has a subprime department too, where they do subprime lending. But what they do is they use that internal score, and that internal score is based on when they give this payment information, and they utilize your information that you put on your application and your income. They get an internal score from one of those subprime lenders. So they're not actually using your credit score. And see, they know this when they look at your credit score, but they don't tell you this, and you have a right to know this. So one of the things that you could use when fighting, which we're going to get into on the next screen, is if you know some of this stuff has happened to you, you can utilize that to deal with what you're going to be dealing with ultimately if your vehicle gets repossessed. So let's get into it. All right. Your vehicle has been repossessed. The next thing that they're going to do is they're going to take that vehicle to the auction and they're going to sell it. So let's just say that your vehicle was $20,000. That might be low on some of the end. I know some of y'all got a lot of money. So $20,000, that's what you owe. Let's just say that that's what you owe. $20,000 remaining on the vehicle. They take it to the auction. When they take it to the auction, they're not sitting there taking it to auction to try to get the highest price for you, to try to get the highest price for them selling the car, but they don't care about you. Like some of the people, they'll say things like, well, they took it to the auction. I know that they could have got this amount of money for the vehicle. When they take it to the auction means that they're going to take it to the highest bidder. If somebody don't bid as high as you think that they should bid for the car, and a lot of people think that because they bought the car for $30,000, they take it to the auction, that it should be somewhere around $30,000. No, it doesn't work that way. So they take it to the auction, they sell it. Let's just say they sell it for $10,000. Reason why they sell it for $10,000 because that's the highest bid that they get. But also the company that's going to buy the car, they're not going to buy the car for what, that price. They're going to look at what the value of what the car is on the Blue Book, and they're going to even try to go lower than that. So don't think when you look at a Blue Book value, that's not dealer price. Dealers have a different Blue Book. You can say the dealer Blue Book is going to be cheaper. So if they sold it for $10,000, the Blue Book value might say something like $15,000. But a dealer, they're trying to make the most amount of money, and they know what they can sell a vehicle for, and they have a range, and they know what they want to sell it for, so they're going to bid lower. They're not going to bid at that higher rate. Now, the next thing is that they're going to give that money to the lender, and the lender is going to hire a debt lawyer, or they're going to sell the debt. It's going to be either or. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just some lenders sell debt. Some lenders go after people. It's just, I don't know what. It's internal decision on them doing that. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to come after you for what's called a deficiency balance. Deficiency balance is the difference between what they got at the auction and what you owe. So we got $10,000. And now with the $10,000, now we got the anxiety, now we got the fears, now we got the worries, now we can't sleep, now we wondering if they're going to garnish our wages, now they're going to take us to court, now somebody's going to be knocking on our door. All of this stuff starts to just come to your mind, just like we just went full circle with my client that's going through this right now. We just went full circle. So they're going to come after you for the deficiency balance. Now, you got to make that decision process on what you want. This client was over $250,000, $260,000 in credit card debt more than about 8 years ago. The time has flown. It took me 4 years to get that worked out. And this gentleman has a 800 plus credit score, probably like at one time it was like 850. I'm talking about his score was up there. His score was up there in 825 to 850. He does not want to go down that way anymore. So the thing that has saved him on this is that this was a business purchase, but he had a personal guarantee. Right now, it's not affecting his credit. So when I talked to him, and he was like, I don't want to go down on my credit. I don't want to have a judgment. I don't want to have none of that stuff, the repercussions that's going to happen from it. And I said, if you don't want to have those repercussions that's going to happen from it, then what we got to do is we got to settle. We got to settle on this. We got to get ahead of it. We got to settle on it. And that's the decision process that you got to make, because the consequences of not settling is going to be this. If you avoid it, then you're going to get the judgment. And then you're going to have 20 years potential that they can come after you for that $10,000. When you can settle on the $10,000 and be able to move forward now. So you got to make these decisions. So there is no middle ground in this. Like some of the people, when I talk to them and I say, we got to get clear on this. We got to get clear on this. When we had these conversations, we got to get clear. What do you want? Don't do what Steve wants. I want to hear what you want. What you want, I'm going to tell you the solution for what you just told me that you want. So if you say you want to avoid judgment, you want to avoid having a collection on your credit reports, You want to avoid having your 800 plus score go back down. When he first came to me 8 years ago, he was in the 400s and 500s. We did so much hard work to get him back up. He does not want to go back. If you don't want to go back, then this is where we're at right here. We're going to settle this debt. And you're saying, well, man, I don't want to pay $10,000. We're not talking about paying $10,000, but we're talking about paying some money. That's the decision you got to make. Now, you want to avoid it? You don't want to talk to nobody? You want to just run? Maybe you don't have the money. Maybe you just simply don't have the money. If you don't have the money and you can't make the payments, you accept those consequences. If you had the money and you want to get if you don't have enough money to settle, but you want to avoid those consequences, start making a payment arrangement when they send a demand letter and just say, I cannot do it, but I will start making payments. They already got the property, they already sold the property. And know that, just like I said earlier, they don't believe you. But if you start to get yourself in a position to where you start to work off on the debt, and then later, you're buying time, later, you can potentially do a settlement later, because they're not going to want to just sit there continuing getting the payments. That's if you want to avoid getting the judgment. But if you just avoid them, this is what you're getting. If you want to avoid them, guarantee you. Some people come to me and they say, Steve, what can you guarantee? I guarantee if you don't pay the deficiency balance, either with a settlement or a payment arrangement, that you will get the judgment, and you will get potential 20 years on them collecting that judgment. And it's not just a judgment. This judgment stops you from being able to move forward. Maybe you want to start a business in the future. Maybe you want to move and get a house in the future. Maybe you want to get a student loan in the future. Maybe you want to get a better job that's going to be dealing with finances, with money. All of this stuff comes back to haunt you. And then also that score. Your with having that on there, your score is, the algorithm just reads it. It's like, if you could just think of it like this. You feed a piece of paper. You have everything that you've done on your credit reports, and you got judgment, and you feed that piece of paper to a machine, and that machine is programmed to read certain things, and this means that, this means this. Judgment means this. Late payments means that. Good payments means this. Loans and low debt to income ratio means that. And just feeding it through. Like it doesn't even know you. It doesn't have no attitude, no nothing. It's just reading what is in there. And you're going to pay those repercussions. You're going to have, that's what you're signing up for. So I want to be clear. That's what ends up happening to people, is that they just don't know, or they don't want to accept, or they're just not clear about, if you don't do a certain thing, that you're going to either accept, that you're actually accepting the consequences of that. So I hope you got a lot out of this video. Please subscribe to the channel, post your questions and comments. You know, I really had a lot of fun making this video. Like I said, I got up early in the morning to do it. So I want you to imagine real quick, stick with me just for a little bit. If you could just have all the stuff what we talked about, if you have issues with repos, or even if you have credit problems, just imagine this for a minute, that all of your credit problems are fixed. That all of the credit problems are fixed. How would you lead your life on a daily basis? How would you wake up? How would you go to sleep? How would you feel when you went to sleep and woke up without having with not having those types of problems? Like, your credit is exactly where you want it to be. Like this gentleman, when he got into the 800s from where he was at, he was like, he felt better, his life. But don't worry about how would you feel? What would you do? Where would you go? How would your life be? So that's what I want you to think about. So thinking about that, if you had the support, if you had the tools, if you had a company that was working for you to help you get to what you imagine your life can be, what it is, what you're feeling right now, all we got to do is put those two pieces together, and we can make this happen. If you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch a video what makes us different so you can see my 8-point validation process and my 2-phase settlement process. That's the way that we repair credit and help people increase their scores and lower their debt. If you need your credit reports and scores, go to the website your3scores.com, the 3scores.com to grab your TransUnion, Equifax, Experian credit reports and all 3 scores. If you have debt collectors coming after you, grab my 3-pack of letters: statute of limitations letter, cease and desist collection activities letter, and debt validation letter. Those can save you time, money, and frustration. The instructions are on there, and I do ask for a donation when you get them, but it can save time, money, and frustration when dealing with debt collectors. Thank you for your time. This is Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of thecreditrepairshop.com.